Hello, welcome to the Batch Rendering and SOLIDWORKS Visualize Professional webinar. My name is Gordon Pursel and I'm an applications engineer for DASI Solutions. For SOLIDWORKS Visualize is a standalone rendering application that can create photorealistic images from any CAD application. In this 30-minute webinar, I'll demonstrate how Visualize can be used to create multiple design variations with different material configurations, scenes, and camera effects. Then how all configurations can be sent in a batch to the render queue and offloaded to a different computer or resource using Visualize Boost. There's two license types for SOLIDWORKS Visualize. There's the Standard and Professional. The Standard's available to all customers using SOLIDWORKS Professional licenses on active subscription. Professional is an upgrade that includes capabilities for animation, additional camera effects, and the ability to offload and schedule rendering tasks. Today I'm going to focus mostly on the SOLIDWORKS Professional Visualize and the post-processing effects and how that differentiates from SOLIDWORKS Visualize Standard. Let's take a look at the visual roadmap so you get a better idea of how this presentation will flow. The first thing we're going to talk about is how do we transition CAD models from a CAD application such as SOLIDWORKS into SOLIDWORKS Visualize. Next, how do we set up the scene and lighting effects? Moving into how do we create cameras and camera post-processing effects, to scheduling and offloading the rendering tasks. Starting with the camera ready section, the first thing we'll do is look at setting up our CAD models inside of SOLIDWORKS and exporting those over to SOLIDWORKS Visualize and some of the options available to us. Next, we'll go through and experiment with different material scenarios and design ideas and bookmark and catalog those ideas using the configurations. Let's take a look at the CAD model in SOLIDWORKS. When we jump over to the Appearances tab, we can see all the material appearances and shaders applied on the CAD model. When this is either exported or opened directly inside of SOLIDWORKS Visualize, all these same shaders will be transferred over to SOLIDWORKS Visualize. Once we're in SOLIDWORKS Visualize, we can see the product starting to come to life with more realistic appearances. There's a variety of rendering modes. We have a preview mode that allows for a more interactive and noise-free rendering. A fast mode which enables a visually accurate ray tracing for the fastest time to quality renderings. Accurate enables scientifically accurate path tracing for the most precise rendering. Then we have Power Boost, which is only available in SOLIDWORKS Visualize Professional. The Power Boost enables a rendering mode which uses hardware from any connected Visualize Boost computer or cluster to stream the ray tracing directly to the viewport. Next, let's use configurations to bookmark various design ideas and material configurations. Let's create an orange configuration to capture the current configuration. I'm also interested in a blue configuration, so I'll create a blue. And I'm interested in a brushed metal type of configuration. In all of these configurations, I'm going to experiment with different materials for these orange side panels. Let's go to our blue configuration in our Appearances tab, which lists all the appearances used inside of our SOLIDWORKS Visualize project. I can create a new appearance by copying and pasting an existing appearance, which I'll show first. I'm just going to use Control-C and Control-V and go ahead and adjust the color. Let's make this more of a blue color and a softer blue color. And we see now we have a new blue color called Satin Finish. Let's give this a more intuitive name, such as new blue color. And we can apply that material to the side panels just by dragging and dropping onto the component. An easy way to copy that appearance from within the viewport is holding down Shift and left click and then selecting Shift and right click over the next component. Let's take a little bit closer look at some of the additional settings for the appearances. We can adjust the roughness, or we can reduce the roughness to give it a more sheen appearance. We can apply textures to appearances. We can also blend the color with the texture or not. Once we have all the settings dialed in, if we plan to use this appearance in a later project, we can go ahead and add that to the library. Let's move on to our metal configuration. This time, rather than copying and editing an appearance, I'm going to jump right over to the library. We can use my local library, or I can go and browse the SOLIDWORKS Visualize online library. As you can see here, the green checkbox represents that I've already synced this I've used this material in the past, and it's synced with my local library. If I'm interested in downloading another appearances, I'll just simply drag and drop that into my project. In this case, I'm going to use this gunmetal appearance for this metal configuration. And as I drag and drop it into my project, going back to the appearances team, you can now see that I have this gunmetal appearance. Again, let's just use our shift left click and shift right click to apply that gunmetal appearance to the other side panel. So there you can see in a couple of minutes that we were able to bookmark various design ideas and material configurations inside of SOLIDWORKS Visualize without having to go back to our CAD models and change our CAD models, just to present some various ideas to the team. In this next section, we're going to look at how to set up and create scenes. Scenes consist of three elements: environments, backplates, and lights. Environments create a globe around the model and account for all the lights and reflections in the project, and backplates are still images that are placed behind the model but in front of the environmental background image. And lights are isolated sources that can be used to create additional lighting effects. The environments, backplates, and lighting can be found on the Scenes tab. Again, we can have any number of environments, and double-clicking allows us to change that environment. If we zoom out and show our environment, we can see the globe. And this globe is used to manage all the lighting and the reflections within the project. Selecting the environment, we can adjust the size of the globe, or the height of the globe, or the orientation of the globe. As it looks like the model is hanging out in space, we can also flatten the floor in the environment. Another environment is the sunlight environment, which provides the feeling of natural sunlight. Next, let's load a 2D high-resolution image in the background using a backplate. Once loaded, the backplate image remains in the background no matter where you move the camera. 3D models in the scene retain the lighting specified by the HDR environmental image without influence from the backplate image. Backplate images do not emit light in the scene, do not cast shadows, and do not reflect on shiny surfaces. They're specifically used as a background image. Additional light sources can be created to get the appropriate and desired lighting effects. You can pick from point, directional, or spot lighting, and even cast the shadows from these lights. To summarize this creating a scene section, we looked at all the elements including HDR environments, sun environments, backplates, and isolated lights that can all be used to enhance your project and create better renderings. Next, we're going to look at cameras, how to create new cameras and edit the settings and post-processing effects of cameras to create the perfect shot. As I'm rotating the model in Visualize, I'm actually looking through the camera and rotating the camera. If I select the camera on the Cameras tab, we can also use the sensitivity sliders here to adjust the camera. Holding down the Alt key allows me to adjust the perspective of the camera. Once we fine-tune the camera, we can copy and paste the camera to create a new camera. Double-clicking the camera will activate this new camera. And once again, I can adjust the model and orient the camera for my next shot. Once I get the camera settings dialed in, we'll go ahead and lock the camera. And I'll just repeat the process. I'll paste the original camera or default camera again. Let's take another shot looking down at the model. Going back to the camera tab, again, I want to look at now the post-processing capabilities available in SOLIDWORKS Visualize Professional. Here we can adjust the vignette to put a focus on our product. We can enable a bloom effect for emissive type of materials. In this case, I want to just adjust the depth of field, focusing on the espresso. Adjusting the f-stop will focus in on the espresso and make everything else out of focus. Another advantage to having multiple cameras and locking cameras, it makes it easy to save your settings and go back to a previously created camera view. That completes our section on cameras, where we demonstrated how to set up cameras, adjust camera settings, and post-processing effects that are exclusively found in SOLIDWORKS Visualize, such as the vignette and depth of field. Let's wrap things up with focusing on how to render our projects and send our projects to the render queue. Additionally, offload the rendering tasks to another computer where Visualize Boost is installed. Once we're ready to create our final rendering, we'll go to the output tools. We could either let the project render up and take a snapshot, or we can go and get more specific. Here we can select the rendering mode, whether that's all the cameras that have been created or all the configurations. We can specify the resolution and the rendering mode, whether that will be the preview, the fast, accurate, or even the power boost. Down below we can select the rendering mode, whether we want it to be based on quality, where we can specify the number of render passes, or the amount of time that we may have. For example, if we want to render a project while we're at lunch, and we have a 30-minute time period, we can specify 30 minutes in here. Once all the settings are ready to go, we'll simply just send this guy off to the queue. Then let's open up our queue where we can see all the projects that have been completed and the status of the projects that have been sent off to the queue. To go ahead and initiate the queue, I'll just go ahead and hit start. Now what about the Visualize Boost? How does that get configured? Well, the first thing that needs to be done is it needs to be installed through the SOLIDWORKS Installation Manager. Once that is done, there'll be a desktop icon to configure Visualize Boost, and it opens up in a default web browser. The first thing that needs to be done is we'll go to the Setup tab, and we'll define our cluster name, the networking mode, and the address. To verify everything's ready to go, just select the Statuses tab and verify the status. Then back in SOLIDWORKS Visualize, all that is left to be done is go to the Options and select the Boost tab. And we can either scan and auto-detect our cluster, or we can manually add that cluster. Once everything's done, you'll see the power boost on the preview mode, and you'll also see the boost as a rendering mode from within the output tools. To button things up with the rendering section, we were introduced to the rendering output tools. We could specify the rendering requirements as well as send that off to a queue, so the task of rendering can be done when it's convenient for us and doesn't interrupt our daily work. We could also offload the task of rendering using Visualize Boost, where it could be sent off to a cluster of other resources. I want to thank you for attending our webinar. I hope you're able to see how SOLIDWORKS Visualize can create some stunning photos to clearly communicate design ideas and variations